Welcome, everyone, to the IBME UVU show. I'm your host, Antoine Valentone, and where we discuss all things about leadership. And today we'll focus more on success stories, which is one of my favorite things to do. Joining us is our very special guest, none other than the great Johnny Manick. Johnny Manick is the founder and CEO of Manick Skates, and
CEO.
also singer, performer, recording artist, Johnny Manick in the Depressives. So, Johnny, welcome to the show. Anything about you that I left out that you think is important for people to know?
I think you covered it, man. Except for the CEO part. It's a one-man operation with well, actually not one man. My dad and my wife and my kids. But like we all know that the CEO is really my wife, right?
Oh, right. That same in my house as well. My wife's the CEO and I'm the CFO.
That's right.
But all joking aside, I'm super excited to talk to you. And your sort of departure from my typical guest. I'm typically focusing on the show on sort of corporate executives and in the tech space, etc. But in general, I'm just fascinated about people's success stories and how they got to where they are from where they started, and talk about some of the exciting and interesting things that have gone on and sort of what you learned from them.
Yeah.
So talk to me about skateboarding. I know it's a big part of your life and probably something you've been doing from a very young age. How did that all start?
I guess it started just being a kid in the neighborhood in like elementary school, seeing kids pushing around on skateboards. And we didn't really have much money growing up. And I saw these kids with these really nice skateboards. And I remember seeing in the corner of the garage, like one of those plastic banana boards.
Do you have one there for you're going to share with us? There it is. Oh, yeah, I remember those.
Here it is.
Yeah. Is that the original from you were a kid?
No, it's a replica, and not a replica, but it's the same board, but not the board.
Okay.
But this was given to me. I think my brother gave it to me, but twice basically. So my brother got one of these, toy store skateboards. He's 8 years older than me, and I think he tried it once or twice, fell on his butt, and just put it in the garage, never rode again. So when I saw the kids in the neighborhood riding skateboards, I was like, "Hey guys, wait up! I got one too!" And they all laughed at me, and they're like, "That's not a skateboard." Um, and then around that time, my uncle took us to see the movie Back to the Future. And that was it, man. I was hooked for life. My whole garage is decked out in Back to the Future memorabilia outside of the Mario Brothers workshop. But I saw that movie and I was like, man, rock and roll is cool. Guitar is cool. Michael J. Fox is the epitome of cool. I want to grow up to be like Marty McFly. I basically did. I have the guitar from the movie in there too somewhere. I went and bought that once I got like a little bit of extra money. But yeah, that was my goal, was to be Marty McFly. He plays rock and roll. He loves Chuck Berry. That got me into Chuck Berry and like 50s rock and roll. Like that sparked it. And I got in the school band like shortly after that because I was like, what's the pathway to be a guitar player? Well, the teacher came into our class in third grade and said, we're enlisting for the school band. You get out of class 1 hour a day. You can either play violin or the recorder. And so I was like, there it is, violin, strings, guitar, like raise my hand. I just want to get out of class for an hour a day. But that sparked the rest of my story. Is basically I got in the school band. On the way home from seeing Back to the Future, we stopped at Toys R Us, and they had the replica of the board Marty McFly was riding in the movie. Like it was all timed with the movie coming out, right? Like we got to get all the toys in Toys R Us. So I wanted that board, obviously, and it was $40 back then. And that was, my mom was like, no way, no way. So I got the cheapest board they had, which was $20. And I got it home and I was like, you guys, look, this one's made of wood. It's got, bigger trucks on it. I got a skateboard, and they laughed at me. That's not a skateboard. So that's how it all started. It was Back to the Future, dude, in the neighborhood kids. And then, it just progressed. Violin turned into clarinet, turned into trumpet, turned into guitar, turned into bass guitar, turned into drums, turned into joining the jazz band, joining the spirit band at the football games, playing between plays and stuff. And that's where I met all the band geeks, and we started making our own bands in high school. And I met all the skateboarders in junior high and high school, and I still hang out with most of those guys to this day. Like I don't even bother going to high school reunions because the people I want to see, I still see.
That's an incredible story, and to think that it all started from Back to the Future,
A movie, dude.
character.
An
Amazing.
interesting sidebar to that.
Yeah.
My first job at a skate shop, my friend said, "Hey, my buddy's opening a skateboard shop. He's building it out. Do you want to go take a look?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to take a look." So we go in there and I meet the guy, and he tells me that he was the stunt double in Back to the Future.
Oh,
He's
really?
the guy in the movie, like dressed as Marty McFly, holding onto the car and doing all that stuff. And I was like, dude, because of you doing the skateboarding, like that got me into skateboarding. The next day I entered a skateboard contest and he showed up and he paid my entry fee. And I ended up getting second place in that contest. And he said, welcome to the team. You now ride for Circle A skateboard shop and skateboards. So the guy that got me into skateboarding sponsored me for my skateboarding. It's such a weird, like, full circle. Anyways, so
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't mean to interrupt there, but I thought that was like kind of an interesting tidbit. The guy that got me into skateboarding in reality ended up sponsoring me for the skateboarding I was doing that he inspired.
What are the odds of that? I think,
Dude,
yeah.
1 in a million. I should have bought a lottery ticket that day.
I think it goes to show that when you follow your dreams and you do what you're supposed to be doing, that the universe just has a way of aligning itself for you.
Yep.
So, and I'm wondering, did that extend to your ability to learn both skateboarding and learning musical instruments? So it sounds like for you, it wasn't just one instrument, it was many. And again, were they relatively easy for you, or did you find it challenging?
I think the first instrument was the hardest, learning timing and music theory and how to read music and stuff. And then in fourth grade, they said, now you can play more than just violin and recorder. Now you can play clarinet or saxophone or trumpet or drums. And again, my family, we didn't have much money. I told my stepmom um, that I wanted to join the band, but I didn't have an instrument. She said, I actually have my clarinet from when I was in high school. You can use that. You can have it. So I didn't play clarinet because I wanted to. I played clarinet because I didn't want to play violin anymore. And we had one. And then in junior high, when I was going into eighth grade, the music teacher said, all of our trumpet players graduated and went to high school. We have no trumpet section. Who wants to play trumpet? And I raised my hand and said, does the school own a trumpet I could borrow? And she said, yes. And I said, I'll play trumpet. So then I started playing trumpet. And then as uh maybe sophomore year, they said, hey, we're enlisting for the jazz band. We don't have a bass guitar player. And I said, do you guys have a bass guitar I could play? And they said, yes. So that's how I learned how to play bass. So like all of it just kind of happened. And then when learning how to play drums came along, it was because I met a guy at a show. Our bands both played, and he's like, we're looking for a drummer. Do you know one? And I was like, do you have a drum kit? And he said, yeah. And I said, I'll play. Just be patient with me. Just teach me. And I met with that guy every single day at his house when I was in high school and played the drums and became actually, I'm better at drumming in my eyes than I am at any other instrument. And I think it's because we met every single day and just played music. We built a half pipe in his backyard, so we would ride our skateboards in between jam sessions. So I think things just kind of fell into my lap because of passion and wanting to do it rather than feeling I had to do it or like this is what I need to do for success. It was because I really enjoyed it and had fun doing it. And I think that's where things opened up for me. It wasn't because I was searching for it. It was because I couldn't live without doing it. And
Yeah.
because of that, you obsessively practice it. And I have ADHD really bad if you haven't noticed already. So I get bored really easy and I move on to the next hobby. But music and skateboarding like got their hooks in me at the same time and they feed off each other. Like
Mhm.
I can't really do one without the other. I tried taking a break from music during the lockdown and now I'm back with my band. We're recording again. We're performing again. I tried to do one without the other, and it just seemed like something wasn't, there was a piece missing. And now that music is back in my life, it seems that skateboarding is more fluid because of it. I don't know how to explain it, but one, it's the peanut butter and jelly. You know, I can eat either alone, but when they're together, it's like, you know.
It's
But
magic.
yeah, the more I tried to make it, the less I made it.
Mhm.
And the more I just said, I'm gonna do it because I love it, my phone would ring, my email would pop up, just opportunities presented themselves. And I have a feeling maybe just because the intent was pure rather than like kids come up to me to sponsor them and they're like trying so hard to get sponsored. And I'm like, you know how you get sponsored? Stop trying to get sponsored. Just go out and skate and people will gravitate to it. But when you're like, hey, look at me, it turns people off. Like, I don't
Mhm.
know. Just do it.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I've always felt that, yeah, you generally get better outcomes when people do things that they want to do because they're passionate about it and they enjoy it versus forcing someone to do it. So my guess is if your parents forced you to learn how to play the piano or do something you didn't want to do, you probably wouldn't have been very good at it,
No,
and you wouldn't have enjoyed it as much.
yeah,
So
why not?
talk about how did the skateboarding turn into you making your own skates and ultimately founding Manic Skates?
Sheer accident, dude. Accident. It's the most successful business I accidentally started. No joke. My son and I were out skating and it started raining. So what do you do when you're a skateboarder on a weekend when it rains? You go home and watch skate videos and stuff like that. So um at the time my son, I think he was like 6, and I was like, "Hey, do you mind if I show you like this movie that I really liked when I was growing up? It's called The North Shore." And he's like, "What's that about?" And I said, "Remember that movie Thrashin' that I showed you, which is basically Romeo and Juliet but skateboarding?" I was like, "Well, this is the surfing version of it where, this guy from the mainland goes to Hawaii. Everybody picks on him for being the white guy that's not island local, and everyone bullies him, beats him up. But he meets an island girl, and you're not allowed to date the island girl, and like all the trials and tribulations. But it's Romeo and Juliet. But there's one character in there, this guy Turtle, who's a mainlander that moved to Hawaii that everyone accepts. So he's the one blonde hair white guy that all the Hawaiians like accept into the fold. And he's a surfboard shaper. And so I looked at my son, I was like, Turtle's the coolest. Like he's the best character. He's like the Spicoli of the movie. Um, and I was like, man, someday I want to be like Turtle, like, but I don't surf, so I'm not gonna ever make surfboards, but I want to be the Turtle of making skateboards. And the guy that Turtle works under, he apprentices under, is this guy Chandler. And Chandler's like the guy, right? So I was like, I don't need to be Chandler. I'd be totally okay with just being Turtle. And right as that I said that, my phone went off and I looked at it and then I got sucked into a Facebook, like checking my Facebook, and I see in the feed somebody made a concrete mold. I have one right over there,
Hmm, I see
right
it.
there,
Yeah.
made to press skateboards. And I saw that on Facebook and I was like, oh my God, like it's possible. Like I had this impression that you needed, tens of thousands of dollars in a factory to do what I do now. Um, so I took a screen grab and sent it to my father-in-law, who's a mason. I said, Dad, can you make this? And he responds back. He's like, of course I can. That's just a form. Like you just get an uncut skateboard, put it in concrete, pour concrete on both sides, then you have the mold. And I said, can you help me? So yeah, definitely. So like the next day we went to Home Depot, bought the materials, started going down rabbit holes on YouTube, on skateboard maker forums. We joined every single DIY skateboard making group we could find on every social media. We just immersed ourselves in it. And the whole goal was to make a skateboard for my daughter, my son, and myself. That's it. That's it. The first one we made was like the best board I've ever skateboarded on. Like no joke. And I took it to the skate park, and anyone that would listen, I'm like, you got to try this, you got to try this, you got to try this. And I walked out of there with like a handful of skateboard orders for a business that wasn't a business, for a company that wasn't a company. People are just like, can you make me one? I'm like, yeah, I guess so, like, sure. So I call my dad. Dad, you'll never guess what just happened. I rode the board. How did it ride, son? It was awesome. It was the greatest. We got orders. And he's all, orders? And I was like, yeah, I let people ride it and they asked us to make them for them. And he's like, we need to go buy some more wood, boy. That's it, dude. 4 boards turned into 10 boards, turned into 20 boards, turned into 50 boards. And now we're well over 1,000 boards since December 19th. December 24th of 2019 was when the first board we ever made was ridden. My birthday is Christmas Eve. That was a birthday present to myself. I rode the first board I ever made. And then who saw a pandemic coming where we were locked down and skateboard shops are closed? The only places to get exercise for the most part are golf courses and skateboard parks, which means everybody and their mom, no joke, there were moms and dads and everybody was at the skate park and there was nowhere to buy skateboards. Supply chain issues. All the boards are made in China. So they were stuck on boats, circling the docks, nowhere to get skateboards. And here I am, this guy just stuck inside my property with this new passion. I can't have band practice because we're all sheltering in place. And me and my dad just hit the gas. And I'd go to the skate park and I was like the ice cream truck, dude. I'd roll up with like boards on my shoulder and I was like, dude, do you have a 9-inch? Do you have an 8-inch? Okay, what if we make a shape like this? And people were coming to the house every day and wearing masks and picking up their order. I mean, I have some boards right here that I need to finish making tonight. It was insane, dude. Completely exploded. I made an Instagram page, didn't do any advertising. All of a sudden, people are following us. People are reposting us. I start posting reels, and now I'm getting questions from other makers. How do you do this? How did you do that? What do you use for this? What do you use for that? And I was excited. I was responding to every single one of them. And I looked and I was like, I keep responding to the same types of questions and I get in these 1-hour threads back and forth with somebody. So I was like, why don't I just make YouTube videos and send them the link to that instead of getting these back and forths? So I'd send them a link, go watch this. And if you have questions, hit me back. And I would FaceTime people. I was this guy in Germany who was having trouble screen printing. This is my little screen printing rig that I made back here out of wood scraps. And I was like, I'm about to screen some boards. Do you have a minute? And he's like, yeah. So I grabbed my tripod, put my phone on, I FaceTime the guy, and I'm walking him through like a master class step by step on how to screen print. Dude, that guy screens the most beautiful boards now. Like, I just laugh at these people that come to me for help. I show them how to do it, and they're kicking my butt. Like, they're doing it so much better. But it's rad. It's like seeing like the flower bloom, and just quietly in my own head going like, I had a little hand in that. That's pretty cool. Like, I'm not going around telling everyone like I taught this guy that, and you got to have humility, but like there's the little part inside me like, oh, I helped with that. I helped with those guys.
Yeah, I'm sure it's extremely rewarding to be able to share what you've learned about something
Open source.
you're passionate about, and others take it and they make it their own, so to speak. And the hope is that they do the same for somebody else when they need help.
For sure.
So
About that, I respond because they're used to people like hiding their trade secrets. And my whole mentality is like open source, man. There's enough of it to go around. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. Just
that's a
trying to
great mindset. Talk to me about some of the artwork. Who are you doing all the artwork? For example, I see that one and
no.
shaking your head. So where do those come from?
Friends, customers, tattoo artists. So I do the art, like the painting,
Okay.
and then I screen print the design that friends or other folks help me out with. So early on, it was like just the guys I'd skate with that were like good at art. They're like, "Oh, I have a graphic idea for you," and I'm like, "Let's do it." So I try to keep it like within my own like friend circle and like our own community. We kind of enjoy that it's like San Jose made. It's made in San Jose. The art is from people from San Jose for the most part. We've had a few people help out with some art. This guy I met on Instagram in Colombia, he did the David Bowie Ziggy Stardust with like, ripping it open.
Oh,
It's under it. So I have branched out a little bit but for the most part, I want to just try to keep it like San Jose vibe, supporting our local thing, keeping it small. And tight knit, you know.
So what's the most remote part of the world you've got an order from?
Australia.
Hmm.
We've shipped boards to Australia, all over Asia, all over Europe, Alaska, Canada, um, South America. I can't think of a continent besides like Antarctica. We're gonna get that one next. We will be skating on glaciers. I don't know. I guess anywhere where they're skateboarding. We got this big YouTube channel. It's like the largest skateboarding YouTube channel on the internet. It's called Braille Skateboarding. They have like over like almost 6 million subscribers. They came to the house for like a whole walkthrough from start to finish on how to make a skateboard. It's like a 30-minute long episode. They basically made a 30-minute infomercial for me. And when that came out, it opened everyone's eyes that there is a thing that people are doing this at home. I got hundreds of messages from people all over the world. Like, I had no idea that was even possible. You inspired me to try doing it. And, you know, I'd say at least like 40 or 50 people that have seen that video have reached out to me and told me they got into it because they saw that it was possible and then went down the rabbit hole the same when I went on the internet and realized, holy cow, there's thousands of people doing this. And I've stayed in touch with a lot of those people and given them tips. You know, my dad and I went all over the internet to piece it together. And so the goal of my YouTube channel is to have a single source of truth that a new maker can go to and not have to go, you know, combing all over the internet to try to piece it all together. So people, you know, have people that don't skate usually are like, why would you do that? That's totally bad for your business. I was like, no, it's not. The more people like me out there, the more it draws attention that there is a market. There is another option than outsourced, you know, boards made in Asia where it's a race to the bottom. It's like who can make it the quickest and cheapest, where I'm trying to bring it back to who can make the best board, regardless of operational costs, manufacturing costs. I do it because I love it. And the money is like the byproduct. It's the same thing. I didn't try to start a skateboard company or a skateboard business. I did it because I love doing it. And it accidentally, people started giving me money for doing what I love. Like, how do you turn that down?
Right. So yeah, I'm assuming there's higher demand for sort of bespoke or handcrafted sort of pieces versus the mass produced in factories in Asia. Give me a sense of how quickly can you turn a skateboard around and what's the price range of your skateboards?
Well, I just make the deck, the wood, and then the other parts like the wheels and trucks, there's a whole industry for that. But most skateboarders, once they get their trucks and wheels, they just keep buying this and they take their old parts off and transfer it over. So my pricing is anywhere from like $80 to $90 for a board, which when I first started, as far as the market concerned, you know, that's a premium price. That's a little bit higher. The bottom feeder boards can go as low as like $25, and it's a blank board with no graphic, and they're made out of inferior materials like a softer wood that falls apart really quickly. Like you could get a board on Amazon for $25, but it'll fall apart like in the same day. But because of price increases and inflation, skateboards, the mass produced ones that are made like in factories in China and stuff, they're now about $80. So I don't get the pushback on price like I used to because now I'm like right in line. People that have ridden my boards have said they last 2 to 3 times longer than a factory made board. And it's because there's multiple reasons that go into it. I cold press, which means I let the glue dry from air, not from microwaving. So when you're mass producing, the goal is to get as many out the door as possible. Well, how do you speed up the drying process? You microwave it. So these presses have like radio frequencies built into them. So when they come down, they're in the press for about a minute, 2 minutes, then they pops open and they're ready to cut. Mine, I leave them in for 4 to 8 hours to let them dry. And then I let them cure in a stack. I let the water, because it's water-based glue, slowly come out of the board over time. So sometimes boards will sit for months slow curing, which makes them harder and less likely to fall apart. So I take all these extra steps that adds tons of time to the process. But the end result, it's like I could microwave a steak or I could put a brisket in the smoker for 14 hours. So what I'm doing is like the slow cooked in a smoker approach.
Got it. Yeah. So you see the virtual thumbs up there,
Yeah,
approving.
it's not as profitable, but it's better. My job isn't to make a high profit. My job is to have the reputation for the best quality
Yeah.
ones, not a whole factory's worth of hands going through it.
Yeah. So how often do you get an opportunity to get out there and skate when you're not building skateboards?
Not as much as I used to, probably depending on the week and what's going on. We're in the middle of a remodel right now. So that a lot of free time's been going to that. But you know, up until recently, 5 to 7 days a week, but now it's more like once a week, twice a week. Um, the band has been taking up time. Um, I've been spending a lot of time with my wife and kids just because I was grinding so hard on the skateboards for so long. I just wanted to take a break and um, just have more time with the family. The
Uh-huh.
kids are still at that age where they want to hang out with us. So just trying to savor that.
I know the
Skate
feeling.
be there.
Yeah, yeah, and I know the feeling as a parent myself, being a parent myself. Gotta appreciate the family time, make that a priority. Um, and I think you said you skate with your kids too, right?
Yeah, my son and daughter skate, but they kind of go through phases of their level of interest. Right now, my son is not as interested as he used to be. I almost kind of got a guilt trip him to go. My daughter took a long break from skateboarding, like maybe 3 or 4 years, but she's like my original skate buddy. She's the older of the two. So she used to go with me to skate park before my son was old enough to. So she's just started showing an interest again. So now they like to tease each other who likes skateboarding more. And I'll look at my son, I'll go, she goes more than you do, dude. Like you can't give her a hard time. Like you can't call her a poser. She goes to the skate park more than you do, man.
Nice.
Um,
So coming back to the band then, how often are you guys getting together and jamming together or doing shows?
Uh, we we have a standing rehearsal every Wednesday night. Um, we have some songs that we need to finish recording for a vinyl release for a record label that wants to put out a 45, like a 7 inch. We put all of our stuff on online digitally. So if you go to Apple Music or Spotify or any of the digital outlets and just type in Johnny Manic, all the music pops up. But we like to work with record labels to put out physical releases. That way we share the promotion of the release. They do their side, we do our side. So we're just trying to finish up 5 songs for a 45 to come out later this year. We just started playing again, so we're being kind of picky with our show opportunities. So our next show is in August in San Francisco. We try to play I don't know, anywhere from once a month, twice a month. I mean, when we're really cranking it out before the pandemic, we play, almost every weekend.
Mhm.
But instead of just playing any show that's offered to us, we're just getting really picky and selective, making sure we're playing with like more established touring bands and knowing that the club will be filled with an audience rather than playing a bunch of local showcases like before.
Right. Well, I'll make sure to put links to everything in the uh, video notes to your Manic Skates, to the band page, and your next show.
Yeah.
It's been exciting. I've really enjoyed the conversation, learning more about you and everything you're doing. It sounds like You've got a lot of great things going on, and I'm super happy for you. And I'm sure people that watch this video will enjoy everything you have to share as well. So Johnny, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.